Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. It's an open forum, Ask the Experts, Level Up Your CAB. It's a new format we're doing. We want people to engage, ask us any questions, and we'll answer. So welcome, everyone. We're recording the webinar. We'll send the recording to you afterwards. Go ahead and type your questions in the Q&A box, and we've also got the chat going. Let me just admit some folks here.
I can admit them too.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay.
So yeah, go ahead and start typing your questions in the chat in the Q&A box, and we'll answer them as we get them. So by way of introductions, I'm Tatiana Falcone, VP Marketing here at Ignite. And I've been here more than 10 years and completely immersed in all things cabs. So go ahead, Rob, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rob Jensen. I am a consultant with Ignite Advisory Group, and my 10-year anniversary, Tatiana, is coming up in June. So I, too, have been a consultant for 10 years with Ignite, but I also hosted many customer advisory boards with previous tech companies that I was with out here in the West.
Awesome. So just really quick about Ignite, we're the only global firm dedicated to cabs. That's all we do. We've completed over 300 advisory board engagements, and many B2B companies use the best practices that we've shared and implemented with them. And some of the solutions that we provide, you can work with Ignite to create or launch your cab. You can optimize an existing board. We'll work with you to assess it and revamp it, and then hire us to facilitate your in-person and virtual cab meetings. So let's start with a quick poll here. Let me launch the poll. So what is the current status of your customer advisory board program or partner advisory board program? We just say CAB here for customer advisory board, but the principles apply to partner advisory boards as well. So I'm going to give it another 10 seconds or so we can see. And let me gonna end the poll and share the results. Do you see the results, Rob?
Yeah, I do. It seems like half the people here are trying to get one off the ground, trying to launch, and then the rest might have a program in progress. And then some are even expanding their program and adding new boards. So that's great.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you, everybody. So at this point, oh no, that's the last slide. I'm going to stop the share, and we're going to start with the questions. So do you see the first question, Rob?
I do, and thanks everyone for joining. And before I begin, we dive right in. We've wanted to do this for a while. We've had some other webinars where we always have asked for questions, and we get so many questions we don't get to them all. So we thought we'd just have a webinar completely on your questions, what you're struggling with, what you'd like some help with. And again, I've been doing this a while. I'm happy to give you my perspective. Tatiana as well she's also an expert, and she can jump in with her thoughts as well. So with that, we'll start with the first one. And we're prioritizing questions that you guys give us live today. We did get some questions in the registration that Tatiana sent out, but we're prioritizing you guys today. So let's jump right in. Okay, first one. What's the best way to deal with cab members with attendance issues? So I can tell you that this is a challenge that many people are having right now. And Tatiana knows our last webinar was dedicated to how to incentivize your customers to attend your in-person meetings, right? People don't want to travel. They don't have time. They're comfortable with online web meeting platforms like this one we're using. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge with some of my own clients to get people to travel. The answer is really, it's if you have a charter and your members hopefully agreed to attend meetings. So make sure that you have their agreement in the first place. Make sure your meeting is member focused, meaning that you're not just having a meeting about your company and here's here's our latest platform and here's our roadmap and here's us. If it's all about that, your members are not going to be terribly interested, right? If it's just about you or things they can get online. If a meeting could be, if this could have been an online meeting rather than in person, you're going to get, lower attendance. Make the meetings interactive, make it about collaboration with their colleagues. And that's kind of the short answer. I will say that, we do have a webinar on that. So if you want more details behind a lot of this, do check that out. I've written about it too. I wrote about it on CMS Wire, how to get your customers to attend, because it is a challenge. So I'll leave it at that. We'll go on to the next question. Sound
Yeah,
good, Tatiana?
I'll just add that I'll send
Yeah.
out some resources afterwards. So
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Some of the questions we get, you guys, they're kind of frequently asked questions, and we have written blogs or articles about them because they do come up in our own consultations and with questions we get a lot. So we've written about a lot of your issues. So I do encourage you to check out the Ignite website, the articles and blogs. We've probably written about your issue and other ones. So, okay, let's move on. How important is it to pre-interview your members before a discussion? Well, I think it's important. I've done that that's the right way to do it with your clients, right? Because the goal is to create an agenda that your members are super interested in. How do you know that they're interested in it? Well, your own internal folks, yourselves, and maybe your executives or your own thought leaders or whoever probably have a pretty good idea, but it's not exact. And they may think they know the issues, but it may not be the exact issues. So you want to create like a discussion guide, run it by your members, talk through it, and you'll be surprised to know that, yeah, that's an issue, that's an issue. But what about this? We're really struggling with this over here. It's like off the menu, right? That they have problems with it. And you'll also figure out the topics that are the prioritized, the topics that are the top two or three issues, and those are the ones you want to address for your agenda. So it's important. For those of you who have ongoing programs, you might also consider a faster way could be a survey, but it's best to do the interviews because you can learn a lot and they can suggest other topics that they would like to talk about. So it's important. Okay.
Definitely. And they're more likely to attend and be bought in if these are, topics they've prioritized and told you in
Absolutely.
advance.
Absolutely. Okay, can you talk about internal team buy-in and program socialization when launching a new CAP? Okay, so I think a key here is, some of the companies I've been at or some of the clients that I've had in the past, only one department, let's say marketing, is kind of tasked with the customer advisory board, and the rest of the company kind of views it as a marketing thing. And they'll kind of let marketing do it. And if it's a success, then they'll jump on, right? Success has many fathers, but if it doesn't go well, then they're not invested, and it's no skin off their nose. I think so. It's important to, when you're starting a customer advisory board, is to get an executive sponsor, right? Could be your CMO, could be your VP of sales, could be your chief technical officer, whoever it is to be that voice into the executive team about the customer advisory board, because they can not only enlist all the other players you're going to need, right? You are going to need account representatives from sales. You are going to need product managers and marketers. You are going to need the events team and a graphic designer, and you're going to need a team. So you need an executive that's high up enough and can motivate people when they're not doing their job or things are falling behind or you need to make decisions and you need to get resources, right? So as far as the internal team, step one is to get that executive sponsor who will make sure that the entire executive team is invested, right? Customer advisory boards are not a single department. It's not a marketing experiment. It's a company initiative, right? And then you have your customer advisory board manager. You have, other people who might be, you might have other session people. So you're going to have different meetings. You're going to have your regular meeting with your customer advisory board management team, and then you'll have wider meetings with the stakeholders and the executive sponsor. So that's a bit of an internal team, you know, outline. We have written about this. As far as socialization, I think, hey, if you're launching a customer advisory board program, tell all your employees, do it in your all hands meeting, put it in your newsletter, write a press release, send out a press release, right? Put it on your website, promote it, because that's great to have a website, a web page for your customer advisory board members. It helps with ongoing recruiting. So kind of quickie answer there. There's more details behind a lot of this. I hope it's making sense. And again, Tatiana, let me know if you have any other notes that I
Oh
forgot.
yeah, no, definitely makes sense. And Nancy wrote, it's critical to have an executive sponsor who
Yeah.
completely understands the value of the engagement with the customers totally. And
Yep.
then she wrote, but I don't have anyone from sales on the internal team. Just sharing her comment there.
Plus and minus for sales, as we all know, they might get all excited at the notion of having their customers trapped in a room for 2 days. I did write about this. I did write about how to be a strong executive sponsor, what you do need help with, and more importantly, what you don't need help with: menus, wine, tchotchke gifts. You don't need help from that from the executives. They'll do it, but you don't need that. Preaching to the choir here. Okay, what have you seen work well for how to measure the impact of a cab? I would say to you guys that this is a constant issue and challenge for people. So many of these questions you have, you're not alone in. So I would say this. I did write two, like I wrote about this. It was actually a two-part answer for like top 10 ways to measure your cab, but it's really around maybe taking an assessment before you start the cab to look at kind of the before and after. So, for example, one of the ways to measure success for your cab is customer retention. So, members on the, at least your, let's say, let's look at your 12, 15 members on your customer advisory board. Do they renew, right? Is customer retention a challenge for your company? Before you start the cab, kind of measure, hey, what's our retention rate? Are we losing people? Why are we losing people? And then look at your customer advisory board members. Have they all renewed? Have they bought? Is there cross sell? Have they bought your new products? Are they aware of your new blah blah blah? Right. So that's one way to measure it, is to look at your customer advisory board members compared to the rest of your customer base. Right. Sometimes if a customer renews or buys a new product, that can pay for the whole program. Right. That's one way. There's many other ways, like, so it's retention, it's revenue, the size of their account. It's, are they helping with your marketing? Are they a reference? Are they a video testimonial? Do they speak at your conferences? Do they speak at your sales kickoff? Do they speak at other events, right? Are they serving as a reference for your other customer? These are pretty big kudos as well. And then another ROI is when you conduct a meeting, you do a survey, you send it out. Well, I'm sorry, you survey your members in the meeting, and it's a great piece that some of my clients use that almost exclusively of the health of the program is feedback from members on their survey. It's not only asking about how was this meeting, it's how's the program going, what changes would you make in the future, and would you be willing to be a speaker or do a case study, right? That's a good way. So again, kind of quickie answers with more details and other ways. There's 10 ways to measure the ROI of your CAB program on our website. Those are a
Yeah,
couple examples.
also I would say like the number of product updates or major updates made I'm going to share the Lauren Johnson of Adobe at the CAB conference. She spoke about that. So
That's a good one and a
that's
big
a
one,
big one
right?
to track. And then also I would add a lot of people do satisfaction surveys. So you could track before they join the cab and then after they join the cab and
That's a good one, Tatiana. Yeah.
see if there's like an increase in the satisfaction rate. Yeah.
Yeah. When you are holding a customer advisory board, you're getting all this input and ideas, and then you're going to collect them, prioritize them, and then act on them, right? And track it going forward. How many actions did you take? How many were completed, right? What were the changes to your product roadmap? If you add something that was attributed to the cab and that was a big moneymaker for us, or it takes a little time sometimes certainly for product roadmaps, but that's a huge one, right? Actions taken. And sometimes they're quick and easy. One of the best ones I ever had was, hey, can you just extend the hours that your customer service is open for a couple more hours for us on the West Coast or something? And that was so easy. It was done immediately, and the customers loved it. Quickie, easy fix.
Yeah, and
Okay.
just one quick thing. I was talking to another Ignite consultant, and she pointed out the efficiency of the engagement. So the president of was the executive sponsor of that board, and so it's just the timing versus rather than traveling to meet 15 different times to meet customers, he was in a room having strategic conversations with the 15 customers.
Right. Right. And there's plenty of social activities and dinners and lunches and things. that I've heard that from salespeople. Hey, I meet all my top 12 customers right here rather than traveling to all of them. So some ideas
Definitely.
there.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Let's move on. What have you seen work for how to measure? Oh, we did that one. Okay. Next one is Rob. When answering the question about attendance, I noticed you defaulted to in-person cabs. Do you find that in-person is more successful, greater attendance? Okay. This has been an issue, talking about in-person versus virtual, right? We're emerging from the COVID and pandemic era where everything was virtual, right? And now we're going back to in person. And so the I think the ideal is a mix of in person and virtual. Um, when you compare, in my opinion, there's certainly no comparison. In person customer advisory boards are way better than virtual meetings, right? When you meet with someone, you spend more time, you get to know them personally, the meetings are more engaging, everyone's focused, everyone's contributing, everyone loves them. The customers are, every survey we get, you probably for some of you too, it's time worthwhile. They learned a lot. They love collaborating with their colleagues, and your host company loves them. It's what I always call the power of customer advisory boards, that at the end everyone's really pretty fired up. In person's best. Now, we know that you can't have in-person customer advisory boards 10 times a year. So you might have one or two, once a year, twice a year is ideal. But in between, you want to keep the momentum going with what we call interim conference calls, although they're on meeting platforms like this. And actually, I'm writing a blog about this right now, where you do address topics and subjects maybe you couldn't get to it, or ones that came up. You're still doing much of the same prep for interim conference calls. If they're run well and they're engaging, and you have breakouts, and I wrote a story about top 5 things you can do. Was it 10 or 5? I forgot. To not use PowerPoint on your online customer advisory board meetings, right? There's other things you can do. If they are, engaging, they'll still be really, really good, but they're never as good as in person. Always try for in person. That's ideal. That's the gold standard. That's when you have your best results. And Tatiana, I welcome your thoughts as well. If you had any
Yeah,
other perspectives
definitely.
on,
And we
yeah,
sometimes we get asked about hybrid meetings, and our point of view is just that it just does not work.
yeah. Don't do a
And
mix.
I've been at some of those hybrid meetings, and the group was in person, I was online, and it did not go well.
It never does. And any other
For the
hybrid meeting that you
hybrid, I'm
guys,
saying maybe for the people on hybrid, it was not a good experience.
and that's probably true for other hybrid meetings we've all attended for the same reasons, right? Either do it in person, all in, or online. Don't do a mix. Do it well or don't do it. Hope that answers the question. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's see. From Kat, do you encourage creating a LinkedIn cab presence for members, maybe internal and external facing, to foster exclusivity and innovation for the cab? Looking for innovative perks and bragging rights for our new members to amplify our brand too. I would say this, that when it comes to LinkedIn groups, what I've discovered and what I've learned from other companies is LinkedIn groups, they just tend to not work very well. And not just for companies that I've been a consultant for that tried to use them, but for big companies. I attend the customeradvisoryboard.org event. It says Tatiana, and I hear from other this topic came up, and I was surprised to learn from big companies, HP or Oracle or whatever it was, that they too tried to launch their LinkedIn groups, and it didn't work simply because you're hoping that the customers would engage each other, and it just didn't tend to happen. And you have to poke them and post your own questions to get the discussion going, and it kind of peters out. It just never really works as well as you'd like. Maybe it's because people are busy, they don't have time to go on LinkedIn, they don't have time to contribute. Again, it's a good idea, but it just in practice it doesn't seem to work. I think the perks should be inherent with the customer advisory board program, right? I've written about top 10 ways that you benefit. That is, why join a customer advisory board? The exclusivity of the program, getting to interact with your colleagues from other companies, right? Benchmarking what they're doing, how many people they have, what's their budget, what are their challenges, right? Influencing the host company's product roadmap that benefits yourself, right? I want this feature. Can you get this? And this will benefit me. Wow, they made it for me, right? Those are pretty big perks. that members enjoy. So I'd make it the benefit of the program. Again, written about this, check out those resources on our website. But I wouldn't spend a lot of time on the LinkedIn page or other. They're probably just in practice not going to really engage each other much. That's my experience. Tatiana, have you had a client that's had been successful
Yeah,
with
a
the
lot
LinkedIn?
of the cabs have the board members are busy executives, so they don't have
Yeah,
time. They don't want to have to log in and into another platform. And it's definitely they want to engage in in-person networking opportunities or maybe like this exclusive webinars or something like that where they're engaging with their peers. Yeah.
that's a great point. If your members in your customer advisory board should be executives, right? Not necessarily users of your product. Could be both. Often is both, but they're busy executives and busy exec. They like Tatiana said, they get the most value talking to people, engaging them in a meeting, less so for online LinkedIn groups, right? That might be for kind of, maybe younger, hipper, newer people at best, but it's in personal engagements, you're going to get the best value. Hope that answers it. Okay, let's go to the next one. Already have a federal specific CAB plan blessed by the CAB chairperson, founders and exec, vet customers. So we can't incentivize, invites or personalize and send out. This is a long question. Reps, graphic design, check-in, networking. Spots have been less than 10%. What's the best way to do a second round of re-inviting? Is it too bold? Send out calendar blocks. Okay, so let's talk about interestingly, federal customer advisory boards, I too have strangely seen particular challenges with federal customer advisory boards. I'm not sure why that is. Sometimes there's budget issues, right? And they can't even accept if when we start a customer advisory board, we recommend people pay for travel, hotel, flights, and meals and everything. And some federal customers can struggle with that, not be allowed to do it. It varies. It's a certain amount. What's the amount? So that can be sometimes an inhibitor there. But strangely enough, even for an online group that I was involved with starting, federal is even more kind of an additional hurdle. I have some theories as to why that is, but as far as incentivizing people to attend your in-person meeting, again, I mentioned that earlier. Check out the webinar we did on that, some articles on making that more about them, their challenges, what are they struggling with, right? What can they learn from their fellow colleagues? Make the meeting about that, not about your if the agenda just blessed by the cab chairperson. I hope the customers got their stamp on that. Maybe they did. And as far as following up, yeah, it might take, send an email. Hopefully that comes from your executive sponsor, right? Not just the events person, right? That maybe does or doesn't even get through. Might take some phone calls, follow up from the account reps. Who has the best relationship with that account? That person should give them a call, right? Leave a message, multiple emails. And sometimes it does take, for one of my clients I've had for 8 years, and they still takes multiple emails to get people to commit and RSVP and make their travel. Same people that have been on the board a long time. People are just busy, guys. Kind of a long question. I hope as far as inviting, if there's a way to launch the program. It's with a charter. It's getting their agreement. It's with you're agreeing to this. So when they're invited to the actual meeting, it hopefully is not a surprise or what. I didn't know that I had actually had to attend meetings, right? It's kind of getting buy-in from the beginning. If you do it right in the first place, you'll get a better result when you're sending out, okay, here's the invitation for the meeting that you agreed to attend, right? Some of that is if you skip that step, right? And you're just, hey, join our program. We're having our meeting next, 2 months. You might not get a good response, right? I hope that answers your question. Who answered that? That was an anonymous person. That might be a longer discussion, but is it too bold to block out calendar? If that's what it takes, right? If they agreed to join the program, I don't think it's too aggressive. One of my clients, a major bank, they do send out meeting invites, so it helps, right? Sometimes that's the motivator that people see that, oh, it's on my calendar. Yeah, I need to accept that. Yes, I'm going, right? If it's if the if you didn't get a strong commitment, they might what is this? I don't know. I hope that helps.
Yeah, and also like in the overall recruitment process, if you're recruiting for the board, you could also mention once you have the first few people who agreed to join the board, you can mention those companies, like,
Yeah.
this company and that company joined for the other people to incentivize them because they
But
want
check your,
to
yeah,
engage with their peers. Yeah.
but check your agenda too, guys. Is it about the customers? Is it about their challenges? What workshops do you have planned? What breakout sessions do you have? If you're thinking, oh, we don't have any of that, but we have an update on on ourselves and our new product. We have a demo. That may be why you're not getting, a lot of people fired up to come, right? If it can be done online, right? Oh, we have a guest speaker, we have an analyst, we have an economist. That can be for all your customers to listen in. Why travel to something that can be done online, right? Think about it. Okay, next question. What's the best way to segment the cab into smaller, engaging groups? I have 3 business units now participating in the cab. It's up for 50 members, but in some cases, a straight cut by business unit isn't always the best fit. I would say this, you guys, sometimes I will go to a customer engagement conference or something, and I'll might ask someone, "Hey, do you guys have a customer advisory board?" And they'll say, "Yes, of course we do. We have like 5 of them." I'll say, "5 of them?" Well, we have 5 different products and we have different users and different groups and blah blah blah. And it's always interesting to hear companies kind of self-justify why they need separate groups. Well, this is specific for, a region or this product or this industry or this blah, 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 right? And I would kind of put forth to you guys that, end user companies, they have multiple products, right? People and ourselves, myself included in previous companies, is we're so self-engaged about our and self-viewing about our own products, right? This one's much different from that one. This is very special. Remember that these companies, they have multiple products from multiple different companies, right? And yours might just be one of them, might be an important one or a big one, or your customer advisory board member, it's very important to them and a big feature, but they have multiple ones. And the more customer advisory board members or customer advisory boards you have, the more the chances are it's going to be watered down, not run well, not terribly successful, unknown, right? Someone who says, "Oh, we have 5 customer advisory boards." My next question is, "Oh, great. How are they going?" No one's, oh, I don't know. They don't know, right? So the best way to segment is to do one customer advisory board, do it really well. Yes, they can have different products, and you can have breakout groups at the customer advisory board by product, right? Um, sometimes regionally does make sense, right? So you might have a North America customer advisory board. You might have an EMEA customer advisory board. You might have an Asia Pacific, Asia Pac. At most, right? 3. Those are for the biggest companies, and those are challenging too, especially for Europe and all those other countries and people traveling far distances. But rather than segment into smaller, engaging groups, think about what they have in common, right? Do one good customer advisory board, and then if it's so successful and you're crushing it and people are clamoring to get in, then maybe expand it. But if you have, 3 business units, 50 members, that might be dangerously close to a user group, right? And I've written about this. What's the difference between a customer advisory board and a user group? One of the telltale signs is user groups have 30, 50, 100 people. That's a user group, right? Customer advisory boards have 12, 18, 15 members, right? That's a customer advisory board. So it looks like you might need to take a look at your list and call it down and see why who invited them, why are they on there, are they the right person, who's the ideal member of your customer advisory board, define that in the beginning. Do your existing members cut that, make the cut? I hope that answers the question. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next question. Do you feel that keynote speakers are a good way to attract the right customer advisory board members? Robert, that too is a great question, and I do have some experience here, and I have found that the answer is no. Keynote speakers, right? I've had customer advisory board meetings where they had an author or an analyst or an economist or a, government special or all these specialists, right? But what happens is you get a name person, a keynote speaker, right? They come in, they say, how much time do I have? You have an hour. Okay, they're going to speak for an hour, right? They're going to be very little involved in the preparation for the meeting, and they're going to speak for an hour. You'll be lucky if they take any questions, maybe at the end, right? Customer advisory boards are to gather people where the customers are the speakers. They're the ones talking to each other and telling your company what their problems are, and you're coming up with solutions to, coming up with solutions to shared challenges. Keynote speakers, they're just there to speak, and they'll speak for an hour, and they're the lowest rated. They don't take many questions. And a keynote speaker, let's say it's someone great in your industry, and there's lots of great people. Why not just hold a webinar, do it online, invite all your customers, right? They're not going to take many questions anyway. They're going to, maybe during a chat or something. But I just found that keynote speak outside third parties are paying for them sometimes. They're going to show up 5 minutes before their session and leave 5 minutes afterwards. That's not in the spirit of a customer advisory board, right? They're not going to engage people and stay through lunch and through dinner and the social activity and the next day. They're hired guns, they'll be in and out. So again, you might have some better experience. I just haven't seen it go much differently than that. So I'm not a fan. Don't recommend it. A lot of people do kind of think, oh, we'll have a keynote speaker. That'll attract people. It just doesn't. There too in practice, it just doesn't seem to happen, right? And if I want to see a keynote, somebody important, I'd rather see them online. I don't need to see them in person if they're just going to talk for an hour. Again, that's my experience. You might have some other ones. And again, you guys, I'm giving my experience here. You might have some other experiences of your own where it went great and people loved it and all the members wanted to come. Hey, that's great. That's great. Okay, what do you cover in customer advisory board meetings? What is a standard CAB meeting agenda? Well, I would say this, you guys, is that in addition to the topics, here's what works best in my experience. So if you're having a customer advisory board meeting where people are traveling to, the first day is a travel day and you have a welcome reception that night, right? Um, Based on a customer advisory board, there's smaller events. So from a particular hotel, you'll probably get a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? Your group isn't big enough to block the whole week. So it's a 3 day, first day travel, welcome reception. Then the next day is a full day, start in the morning, go all day. Then that night you have a dinner, a nice dinner. And then ideally you have some sort of social activity that enables people to collaborate and talk to each other socially and get to know each other. Don't underestimate that. That's one of the highest ranked aspects of a customer advisory board. We've written about different ideas and examples on our blog and website, the ones that work best. And then the next day, the third day, day 3, is a half-day meeting. Start in the morning, half day, end at lunch, people fly home, right? That's best, right? Hopefully you have some great content for that. If you do it any shorter, right? If you have, let's say, the one day, you're going to get people, you don't want people leaving early, right? If you do it one day, you're going to have people leaving that afternoon and not staying for the social activity. So that tends to work best. Other key points I've written about: advisory board agenda must-haves, introductions, what we call an environmental scan, some things from yourself, a case study from one of your customers tends to work well, right? And on the flip side, that's great to have a speaker as your customer advisory board member. So those are some, and then again, engaging workshops, breakout sessions. What are we trying to learn? What are we trying to prioritize? Prioritize our roadmap. Okay, how much would you spend on that? What's missing from our roadmap? Those are the things you should have as part of your customer advisory board. Again, quickie, short answers. There's more details on other articles we've written. Hope this is helping. Is this
And I
helping, guys?
mean, yeah, just to mention virtual, that wasn't in the question, but we got a lot of questions about that, like
Yeah,
it should
yeah,
be like 60 minutes, max 2 hours. Sometimes our clients wanted to do like 4 hours. That is way too much.
yep.
And I
You
would
get it.
say to definitely also do breakout sessions in virtual. So maybe 60 minutes is quick for that, but 90 minutes is good. Get them, and that'll get people engaged, especially the folks who are quiet or not speaking. Once they're in a breakout session in virtual, they'll engage with their colleagues, peers, and speak up.
Yep. Yep. Good point, Tatiana. Okay. Best practices on ways to ensure feedback from customer advisement is incorporated by product. Okay. Well, okay. So you've done your job. You got people together. You got the customer advisory board. They've given you input on the roadmap. you're capturing that, right? You're through various ways. You're writing it down. So you have a note taker who's writing down this input. You ideally you have some breakouts and people are writing on whiteboards or flip charts, or you have your roadmap and people are voting with sticky dots. You take a picture of that, right? You put it in your meeting report, and in your post meeting, sort of gathering with your product people, you say, okay, our members have now prioritized the roadmap. They're gonna incorporate that into their planning, right? And the head of product agrees they're going to do that. Now, that being said, you can't build everything every customer wants, and they might prioritize it in a way that's different than what you thought. It might take a long time. You don't have to have everything built for the next meeting, but your executive sponsor is making sure that your product people are, yeah, you're going to do that, right? Yes. They have to agree to the action up front, not let me get back to you on that. And oh, it's the next meeting is tomorrow. What do we ever do with that input? No, you're tracking it ongoing. So again, there's a post-meeting process. You're vetting what you're going to do. You're getting agreement. You're putting a name. That person is going to do that, and they're going to have it done by this, and they agree to that, right? And then they go do that, and then you report back to the members, and not only the members, but your own, participating executives. That's the best practice. That's what should be working. Does that happen every time? No. Why isn't it happening? That's maybe a bigger question for your internal executives. And why didn't they do it? Yeah, they might have other things. They might have a reason. Hope that helps. Tatiana, I don't know. Okay, next question. Any best practice reporting format to use communicating with cab members who are the C-suite after a meeting? Anything that was loved previously? Yeah, so what I do, guys, is when we have a meeting afterwards, there's kind of a process, and I've written about this too, the things that you're going to do. After a meeting, you are going to send any presentations that were reviewed that weren't sent to them in advance, anything that was raised, articles, oh, this white paper was about this. Make sure you send them everything that they need that was talked about in the meeting. You are going to want to create a meeting report. I recommend it in PowerPoint because that focuses more visually. It's summarized. It's easier to kind of read. It's easier to share, more importantly, right? You can share that with your sales team. You can present it at your company all hands, right? It helps with summary. So I recommend a PowerPoint summarizing everything. And then the last thing is an internal document, is your action tracker, a list of things that you guys could do based on what you heard from customers, right? You might have so much input, you have to prioritize the top 10, top 5, I don't know, but you're going to do these. You're part, you're agreeing to do these by a certain time. This person is agreeing to do that, and they're going to do it, and we're going to report back to the customer advisory board members at the next meeting, if not sooner, right? So that's the process. I hope that helps. But PowerPoint is good for reports anymore. More visual. Hope that helps. Okay.
I would also
Uh
add to
yeah,
make sure you take photos of your meetings in person, add some photos and for
absolutely. Make it
also for
visual.
your own, you can share in your internal Slack that you can communicate and share, promote the cab that way internally also.
Yeah. When we have breakouts, I'm taking pictures of the people and they're collaborating and it's great. And maybe at the social activity, right, there might be some very visual things there. But more importantly, you're capturing what they wrote down, what they voted on with their, monopoly dollars, with their voting, with their sticky dots. You're capturing that visually. That goes in the meeting report. That's in the PowerPoint, right? It doesn't have to be every word. It's not a transcript. You're not a court reporter. It's high level, right? People can't read, 500-page Word documents. Keep it high level. Okay. Hope that helps. Okay. Can you discuss the challenges of having competitors being the same cab for a company that's hosting? Cab provides services to both. Is it hand selecting attendees for in-person? Okay, I have got this question before as far as, competitors in the customer advisory board. It does work. You're not asking them to divulge, you know, super sensitive information, right? You're not asking them, if you have Coke and Pepsi on your cab, I'm just making that up, right? but we're not asking for their formulas. We're not asking for their complete strategy. They're going to share what they're comfortable sharing, and they might be a little close to the vest compared to other clients, but it can be done. It should be done. You might, there should, nothing in your cab should be intimidating or advantageous to one or the other. You're just asking them to talk about their challenges. They probably do have some shared challenges. When you're recruiting, hopefully, you're saying, hey, we want customers that are going to be open and honest about sharing their challenges. If they're not, then they're probably not a good cab member. You can invite them, hey, we're in the interest of collaborating and making wins for everybody. We're not trying to get ahead on anybody, right? But you can have competitors on your customer advisory board. It should work fine. You're not asking them to share anything super secretive. As long as they're customers, we don't recommend prospects, right? If they're not a customer yet, they're probably not a good customer advisory board member. I wrote about that as well. Hopefully that answers the question.
Also, I've seen in some cabs, like they'll show a slide, like antitrust statement slide at the beginning. If that's like a big concern, nobody reads the slide, but you're just putting
No,
it there and you're just making you could make a comment up front in the meeting. Like,
I've always been amazed when anytime legal's kind of involved in customer advisory board. I'm sure we all have our stories, but like getting NDAs from customers and they all have to sign it before you have to have a copy before they get in the room. And oh my God, what a cluster that was. It's not
yeah,
needed. Hey, try not to get legal involved at all, but yeah, no one's gonna yeah. That doesn't that again in practicality, you can try to, do your legal NDAs and signing things and disclosure and all that stuff. It's in practicality, it's just not needed. I'm sure there are lawyers who would vehemently disagree with me, but don't I just got involved in an NDA thing one time and it was a total disaster. I was literally the bouncer at the door turning away major customers because they didn't get their NDA signed and forwarded in advance. And here they are standing in front of me. What do you do? The exec, yeah. All right. That's my, those are my horror stories. Okay. Hopefully that answers the question. Can you just, competitors, we addressed it. Okay. What are good examples of social activities? Golf, wine tour. Okay. Social activities are great, you guys, for getting that's where you can get some exclusivity, right? For getting your customers to come to your board to do something they probably wouldn't normally be able to do, right? Good, they're not required. Okay? You don't have to do them. They don't have to be expensive, right? If you just have a good dinner, that suffices enough. But if you're taking it to the next level and do a social activity, it can really be great. It can be a great draw. So one of my clients is doing a stadium tour of US Bank, the Viking Stadium coming up. That's pretty cool, right? A private tour. Other ones that I've done that have gone over really well. We did a tour of the US Capitol. That was unbelievable and a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? I've done museum tours. I did the Country Music Hall of Fame. I did the NASCAR museum. Those were all fantastic, right? Those are unique to the city that you're going to, and fosters collaboration. Golf is probably not good, although one of my clients did do Top Golf. That was really well received. The members love that. Wine tours, I've done some of those. They're not bad. I'm not as into wine. Some people are into wine, some people aren't, so it's kind of mixed and not terribly exciting. We did write an article, you guys, or was it a blog, about our most successful social activities. Tatiana, you have some really good ones too. I don't know what
yeah.
your
Just
top.
one of my favorites was definitely city based. So Kentucky Derby. That that was in Louisville. That
Yeah,
was very fun. Everybody was, kind of like talking about the horses, making some bets, and it was relaxed. It wasn't like fixed seating. It was kind of like high tops with lots of food and people were moving around, and it was very, very fun. Yeah.
yeah. I did that too at Churchill Downs, and it was great. And we had a booth or private suite, and it was food and drinks, and people talk between the races. It was great. But I would just say this, guys, is these are all, you might think, oh man, we can't do that. Our budget won't allow it or something. It's not required. You don't have to have it. If you can have it, great, but it's not required. And the other thing is don't make it a science project, right? Sometimes, hey, you have your agenda and your sessions and your strategy, what we're trying to learn, and then you go to your executive sponsor stakeholder meeting and you spend your 1 hour meeting, you spend 55 minutes on the social activity and what are we going to do and how are we going to get there, what the wine is and what the giveaway. Don't let it be a science project, right? I've written about that too. That's what you don't need help with. You have professional events people that are experts at this. They can get resources. Don't let it be a distraction. That's kind of what what I would say for social events, right? Is then the execs are involved, and this always happens, by the way, preaching to the choir here, but as much as I preach that we don't need your input on what kind of wine to serve at the social activity, that's what we spend most of our time on. I think it's human nature. Okay, any other questions, guys? Open forum for you guys. I don't know if there's anything else. You guys are the priority today. If there's any other thing you're struggling with, um, you know, before we do close, I would say this, guys. Hopefully, these questions have been helpful. If you have your own or you have bigger questions like how do we get started? How do we get our management team on board? Some of these questions are a bit harder to answer. They might take a little longer, but between Tatiana, we have another guy on our staff. His name's Gavin, and he is a super expert. He'd be happy to, take your call and address your exact personal challenges with your team. They might be harder to answer than a simple on a webinar. He can help you provide some guidance for your own program and how to get it started, especially if you're trying to get it off the ground, right? And you're not getting a lot of support or feedback or resources, right? Or my favorite is, hey, we want to start our customer advisory board. Can we have the meeting in 2 months? It's tied to our CEO is going to be in New York and he wants to have it then, right? Kind of thing. Trisha like that one. If you're experiencing any
Common
of this,
pitfall.
yeah, common
Very
pitfalls,
common.
give us a call, you guys. We can get more in depth with your own personal challenges and how to overcome them. And, working with your internal team is often a challenge, right? That's pretty common. Most of the boards that I've been involved with, if they had any problems, was almost always the host company, not the board members, not the program, not the cab manager. It's the internal companies. Okay. Question came up. Upon conclusion of the CAB members' tenure, 12 to 18 months or so, should there be an alumni forum to keep them engaged in some capacity? Great question, Robert. If you're, I've had some customer advisory boards that, you invite them for, like you said, 12 to 18 months, 2 years is ideal, right? A few meetings, get them understand, get them going, participating, seeing the results a bit, but make them the option to, what I found is give them the option to continue if they're finding value. And it's an option with you too. If you like them, they're participating, they're helpful, they're attending every meeting, you can keep it going, right? If one of those is not happening, they're okay. They kind of said what they're going to say. You can have them graduate to an alumni board where they can, they'll probably be more interested in the socialization and talking to fellow colleagues that were on the board. You can do that. But I will say, I have a customer that I've had for a long time, and they've had some customers on their board for many years, many years. Because the customers keep going, and because they get value out of it. They'll stay as long as they find value, and when they don't, or they just are too busy, or they get acquired, or they change jobs, or they're laid off, or whatever, they won't. And that's my experience. I hope that helps, Robert. We're certainly happy to
It
take any other
does. Thank
questions.
you.
Oh, okay, good, good, good. Any other questions, you guys? I mean, like we're kind of near the end. If you had any more, or you just wanted to, you know, happy to take them. But again, if you want to think about it, you've heard some things. Uh, if you heard that I said earlier that we've covered some of these topics, and do check out our website, guys. We have articles, we have webinars, we have blogs. I try to write on a specific topic. Been doing it for a while now, and you might see some of your exact struggle, or some of them, measuring ROI. That's, you might have a successful program, right? And you might be open to other ideas. How do other people do it? What are other social activities that people are doing? How are other people preparing for their meeting? How are other people, dealing with your management saying, hey, we want a guest speaker, we want this analyst, or we want this author, writer. How do I handle that, right? You can sometimes I've sent articles or links to blogs that people have sent to their management, right? They say, hey, we want a keynote speaker. And I've written about why keynote speakers tend to not work very well. You're going to send them the article. It's not from you. You can say, hey, this guy is a cab consultant. Here's what he thinks about that, right? Right. We know our management, hey, they might not listen to us, but they'll listen to someone outside the company sometimes, right? Feel free to use that, right?
Yeah, I'll
You
send
know,
read some of the resources in a follow-up email.
yeah. And I wrote about, guys, you might have an executive sponsor, and maybe if your meetings have been like some of mine, where you're spending 80% of the time on logistics, or you have a new cab and you have an executive sponsor. I wrote a blog once about, hey, you're an executive sponsor. Here's what we really need from you, right? And here's what we don't need from you. Getting involved in food menu stuff. We don't need that, right? Send them that article. It's, hey, somebody wrote this, not me. Rob wrote this. Here's what we need and don't need if you're experiencing any of that. Maybe
So,
Trisha can
so
relate to that.
several people wrote, thank you, thanks for the session, great session. So I don't see more questions coming in right now. So I think we can wrap it up. Thank you
Yeah, I think
everyone for
so.
your engagement in the chat. Thanks for being here. Any final words, Rob?
No, good luck with your programs. It can be challenging, but give us a call if you're having any challenges, and we can certainly help you overcome them or point you to resources that can maybe give you some guidance.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. Have a good rest of the
Thanks,
day.
everyone. Good luck.